You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, September 9th, 5:30 p.m. I'd like to bring the regular meeting of the Branford Board of Police Commissioners to order, please. First item, approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? What was it from May 2024?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Report of the chief, please.
Wait a minute.
Oh, the special, we have to do that as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I need another motion. Special meeting, June 25th, 2024, to approve the minutes of that meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second. Bob?
I have to make a comment. So
Yes.
do I make it now? If you look down, the motion that was made by me and seconded by me is not correct
On that
on those
meeting.
minutes.
So Trista,
Oh, I see. Yep.
yep,
All right, so as corrected.
corrected. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Report of the chief.
All right, so in your packets, you have June and July. For purposes of going through this, there's a couple things I want to highlight. So if you would, the July 2024 statistical report. In some of the categories, you're going to see a significant increase, i.e. in the crimes against person. The intimidation category, you're going to see a 700% monthly change, and you're also going to see that you're going to see some significant deviation in simple assault. What this stems from is the national incident reporting. Branford actually was one of the first agencies ever to go to the NIBRS format, and now it's pretty much going nationwide and abandoning the old UCR crime stats. So within that, there's been some Connecticut discussions on making sure there's parity with other departments. With that said, the intimidation category under crimes against persons was determined that court violations, i.e. like a protective order or restraining order, when there's a specific violation, that under NIBRS they would like that to be categorized under that call category or that crime category. In the simple assault also, there was other ones that would be removed or added. So this is our crime analyst in conjunction with NIBRS cleaning up some different reporting. And you know, I do hope that this is the beginning of narrowing some more so that we can get more consistent across all departments. So you'll see some deviation there as we move forward, just cleaning it up. So if you see that big increase, that's what it's attributed to. It's not like all of a sudden we had a 700% increase. It's just moving around some of the crime reporting pursuant to discussions and consensus from the state. Also on there, you will see the Group B offenses for the family offense non-violent. You will see a 100% drop there. Some of those got moved over to the intimidation category, so that's why you're seeing that. Pretty consistent on the social service calls, trending
up.
We're still seeing a little uptick in the family violence area. However, you know, in Connecticut, they're saying that the drug overdoses are down. We're up by 2, so we're not seeing a significant statistical improvement in that category. Your basic theft from autos, you'll see an increase in the traffic enforcement from June into July specifically. And there was an increase in accidents. from June to July, about 13 to be exact. But if we dig deep into those, a lot of them are private property accidents, from parking lots in our commercial districts, with a mixture of strictly property damage only. A search looks like we had 13 accidents that had some injury component to it. So that's the statistical portion of the report. As of now, we're at 52 sworn officers. As you know, that was up from 50, we're at 54 budgeted, that's up from 52 this fiscal year. We were able to bring back one officer, Officer Palmalos came back. She had left us for a short duration and decided she wanted to come back, which was great for us. We're glad to have her back on board. And then we have another entry-level officer up at the academy. So on paper, as of today, we don't have any openings. But with that said, we do have 3 in the academy. We have 1 on light duty and a lieutenant on light duty. So all reports coming back from the New Britain and the Meriden Police Academy, our recruits are doing well. However, again, we won't realize them for a significant amount of time between the field training, so their impact is not going to be felt for quite some time. With that said, we are hopeful that we will have an agreement with the union. We are working very hard, and I think we'll have some good news to report at the next meeting, I hope. That is good that we can move forward and be competitive and have a contract, and there's some beneficial changes that we're hoping to realize. However, with that can prompt a significant amount of retirements. So the old adage, we take 1 step forward, we take 2 steps back. We are hoping that we can possibly be competitive and look for some certified officers. But that market has not been, there's not a lot out there, so I don't have much hope for that, but we will see where that takes us. If we can realize some wage increases that we can advertise, we might be able to pull from some other departments. But again, we're pretty picky on who we take, so they have to meet the criteria also. So I do anticipate some vacancies coming up. Matter of fact, one officer met with me, and they're probably on like a 6-month timeline. So we do have some vacancies coming up. So again, we just seem to be stuck in this process. The good news is there'll be light at the end of the tunnel, just based on the shifting of the years of service. We'll be a very young department, and hopefully we can retain those officers and move forward. So again, the added 2 are really helpful, but not an immediate impact. As far as, you'll see this, the training synopsis, nothing significant to report there. The department, we completed our state mandated yearly body-worn camera training for everybody. Some other activities within the department. Coming up on September 16th at Lenny's will be our 30th anniversary of the Tippecop. We are one of the leaders in the state for the Special Olympics fundraising.
I'm sorry, what day did you say that was?
September 16th.
September 16th.
Next
The
Monday.
day. Huh?
Next Monday.
It is a Monday,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
12 to 9.
12.
12 to
Yeah.
9.
12 to 9.
Yeah. I thought he said.
We are on track. We're on track, hopefully, to raise more than we ever have. So it would be nice to be the 30th anniversary and one of our highest years ever. So it's a really good time. It's part of our department. We go down every single year. The officers will help fundraise and wait on the table. So I encourage anyone to stop in there.
Can I make a comment, Chief?
Yeah.
So we are hoping that the commissioners will be there. Patty's arranging a table at
Yeah.
5, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, and the only one that I didn't hear from
Christine?
Bob?
Bob.
That's 'cause
Are
he's
you
not
able to
getting
come,
emails.
Bob?
Probably at nighttime.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
like
we're
5
going to
o'clock?
start a table at 5 if we can to support the police department. Christine, are you,
I 100%.
and I know Val, so
Okay, look from here.
that'd be great.
Also coming up on Wednesday, the 9/11 memorial ceremony at the
Yep.
firehouse. This Wednesday at 8:30. We'll be present there with our honor guard and our fire department personnel. I believe this is one of the longest running memorials in the state.
Yeah,
At 8:30 in the morning?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's when the bell tolled. Hopefully, all of us can attend that as well.
Yeah. Also, schools have opened. With that said, just a public service announcement to the motoring public. Please be careful, put the phones down, heads up, phones down. The children will be out there waiting for the buses. Also, State of Connecticut passing a standing school bus is a $450 fine. We please encourage, put the children's safety. Every day you go out there in the morning and the afternoons, please be cognizant of that. On August 6th, we participated in the National Night Out. The weather didn't cooperate as well, but we had a good amount of officers there. Danielle Sarasi, our social worker, as well as Amy Robinson was there to help out, interact with the kids, so it was a good time. It's been a while, but if I had mentioned, forgive me, but we did participate in the benefit softball game for the counseling center, our yearly rivalry with the fire department. We did prevail again. It's not fair when we have Division I softball and baseball players on staff, but it was a very good time, very well attended. We had a great time. Maybe next year they'll have some hope, but
Was Rain here?
it was a good time. The South Central Regional Traffic Team has been active. We're going to continue with this in discussion with the other departments. The response and, quite frankly, what they're experiencing is leading us to continue longer. More specifically, we normally were looking at like a 6-week, 8-week period. Now we're going to continue. What they're encountering is a significant amount of unregistered vehicles, operators operating under suspension with no insurance. There's times that they'll have anywhere from 9 to 12 officers. Sometimes they've towed upwards of 20 cars. So the numbers are coming back, that there's a demand there, and it's working out very, very well. So, really a good effort. It's focused, concentrated. They're not bound to other calls for service, which is really good. So they're out there for that purpose and that purpose alone. So we're going to be continuing with that. It's gotten a lot of attention. It's gotten attention from the Commissioner of Public Safety. It's gotten attention from Connecticut DOT. And they've been in contact with some of our supervisory personnel that help lead that. So traffic safety, we're going to continue with that. Again, they don't take regular calls, so it's really nice. And there's another benefit to it in some of the high traffic areas. They see a marked reduction in crime, specifically shoplifting, during those enforcement efforts.
Chief, how many towns?
6.
6.
The Branford Road Race and the festival, well attended, good weekend, no significant issues. Moving forward, we will have some enhanced security measures moving forward. One in particular is what we were able to do through a regional project, drone detection software and drone detection equipment, where we set up 2 sensors and they will tell us where a drone is and how far it is and where its intended flight path is, but more importantly, it will tell us where the operator is. That's the most important part. I don't know if you saw the recent post from Short Beach regarding a drone that's been flying down there. It is in violation, that drone, this specific drone is in violation of the no-fly zone because of Tweed. So when we look at the Homeland Security put a focus on soft targets and crowded spaces, i.e. large events, and they funneled some of the Homeland Security money down for those purposes. So we were able, in our Region 2 group here, to purchase this equipment that is housed and maintained by the City of New Haven, or New Haven Police Department. We have 2 officers trained with that technology, so when we have large-scale events or pretty much events that fit that category, when you have a large amount of people in a small area, we have that technology. It was identified as a significant national threat, and we need to try to keep pace with this technology. So moving forward, we will have that, and more to come regarding that. Also, I have to report back on Monday, August 19th, for those of you who saw it in the news, our South Central Regional SWAT team assisted North Haven Police Department with a barricaded gunman in a house there in North Haven. This person fired some rounds, and then the initial officers, he had made threats that he would hurt officers. At that point, they notified the regional team. A 14-hour standoff ensued, and at probably around, if I remember correctly, about 8 in the morning, he started on multiple occasions exchanging gunfire with the SWAT officers. At one point during one of those volleys, he fired at Branford Officer Rocco Morgan. Officer Morgan returned fire. The person retreated back, and then there was another volley of gunfire. Several other officers fired, and at one point, the suspect gave up and surrendered peacefully. He was not injured. None of the officers were injured. The Office of the Inspector General, which oversees any deadly use of force in Connecticut, came down. They issued a preliminary review, and they've cleared Officer Morgan that he was within Connecticut state law to use such force. But I think more importantly, I want to highlight, we've talked about the benefits of this regional team and our regional efforts, whether it's the traffic team, the crash investigation team, some of our computer crimes officers. The amount of resources and technology that we have from regional funding that we use through Homeland Security and a combined capital account of all our participating towns, every bit of that technology was used that night, every bit of it. Unfortunately, some of it was damaged, but we would rather have technology damaged, i.e. robots and cameras damaged, as opposed to officers having to be in harm's way. Unfortunately, this person chose a different path, and we're very fortunate that there was the outcome that we did. So my hat's off to specifically the command staff of that team. There were some very tough decisions to be made that day, and they did them very well. Great leadership, great way to go about a very difficult situation. But the officers acted bravely and very smartly. But 14 hours, that's a pretty long time. So good job to all of them, especially Officer Morgan. We're thankful that he is okay and he is back to work. He actually wanted to come back the next day, but we had to give him a little time off to go decompress. Speaking of good segue into correspondence, Officer Morgan, Officer Richardson, a resident was having some car trouble and needed to get somewhere, and they were able to help her out and put some air in her tire to get her going, so she was very thankful. Another resident, car was hit in one of the school lots, and unfortunately, the person did not stay. They caused a significant amount of damage. Officer Crowley investigated it. They were very happy with his calm demeanor and his diligence in finding out who did it and helping them get their claim started, and they wanted to thank him for all that he did. Officer John Casella, an issue that kind of may have, I believe it was in the parking lot of one of the schools. Some money was taken, a bunch of juveniles were involved. He was able to speak with them, get the money back, and work with the families. And what stood out the most was that, they felt like they were the top priority, and he texted and called them often, knowing where they stood, and, they were very appreciative of all that attention. The Little Explorers Camp, K9 Arrow did a demo there, so some of the nice drawings of the dog there, so we appreciate them sending that in. A nice letter directed to Danielle Sarasi, our police social worker, Officer Weber, and Officer Johnson. Just a much appreciation for the way they handled a very difficult family in need call back in August. So we have a internal reporting system for noteworthy performance, and this is from Sergeant Romanello regarding Officer Casey McCone. It was a very difficult call with a 13-year-old who was suffering from a mental health episode and had run away and didn't want to go to the hospital to get the care that they needed. And Officer McCone was able to speak with the juvenile while he was in his bedroom and convince him and start a dialogue that was able to get the child into the ambulance and get him the help they need. But it was something about the care and the empathy and the sympathetic tone that he took and built that rapport and that trust. Very difficult situation, but handled very well. Hats off to Officer McCone. And then we have a letter for Officer Palmals during her performance during an accident. Her calm demeanor and professional help helped the party that was involved in that accident. And lastly, we have a thank you note, something, the Angela Watrous Memorial Be Positive Scholarship that was recently issued to a recent Branford High School graduate. So I wanted to thank us for that. I believe that's all I have for tonight.
Building renovation,
John shouldn't be with us, but I do have a report for him. Thank you. Bear with me. All right. First and foremost, sad news to report the passing of Peter Bonka. He was the chair of the Public Building Commission, and he spearheaded the commission since the first meeting, worked hand in hand with John and all the other members. He was fully committed, supported the project, his leadership to help us to move it along. Deputy Chief Al said he became a good friend in the past several years working on the project, and he'll be missed by all. So our thoughts and prayers are with his family on his passing. He will be missed. In August, they did begin bi-weekly meetings with the owner, architect, and contractor. These are just basically, to facilitate the communication on the project, design, intentions, some of the construction methods they'll be using. Basically, just the start of opening up those lines of communication, progress updates, and then obviously the budget considerations as we move forward. Jakunski Humes, our architect, has provided a furniture plan and assessed all the mechanical and electrical needs at the fire department on the side which we will be occupying in the interim. There was some needed electrical additions that they're working on, because we're going to be putting a lot of desks and computers, so they have a layout to give us a head start on where we can place some of our personnel. It's going to fit, that space is going to fit our patrol needs very well. And I can assure the public you won't see any impact on public safety response or our response to calls. The only things that'll be a little difficult that we'll post is coming here for reports and at different phases of the project. The dispatchers will remain here in this building for the duration of the project. Because of the technology and the infrastructure here, it's more cost effective to actually keep them here. Our records staff will be in both locations. However, you need reports. A lot of it's email nowadays, but you still have the ability to come here. So at certain ports, certain times of the project, we'll have maybe a trailer out in front that we'll have to utilize for public contact, but we'll have interview rooms at all times. We'll have the ability, we'll have bathrooms. So there'll still be a little footprint here. With that said, the moving company has already been engaged. They will be out here later this week to work with some staff to identify things that need to be moved and get a plan for that. It's not going to be that difficult. This is something that's done with the people that we've engaged with already. Unfortunately, I've been through it, so it's going to be very orderly, and we won't have any interruption, like I said, in service. And lastly, I'd like to report that we're still on schedule to kick the project off late October. So
Good.
we're looking for late October.
Where will we continue to meet as a commission?
That's a good question. Probably the community house,
Okay.
because we'll be occupying the,
Upstairs, yeah.
Actually, we can meet over at the commissioner's room at the firehouse first.
we
Yeah.
could do that.
I've already started those conversations
Yeah.
about.
Okay.
Oh,
meetings.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you for that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Report of the chair, I don't really have anything except to, again, congratulate the regional SWAT team and our officers for a long standoff and diffusing the situation on August 19th the way they did. So just a congratulations to everyone. Citizens' comments. You're up. I mean,
So, my name is Peter Henschel. I am the chair of the RTM Rules and Ordinances Committee. And I submitted a letter to the board requesting some dialogue between our group and the, primarily Chief Mulhern, concerning the town's noise ordinance, which I've been on the Rules and Ordinance Committee for probably over a decade now, and several different points in time over that period, we've had citizen complaints about enforcement of the noise ordinance. And invariably, those discussions, number one, they have not led to any changes in the ordinance itself, but they have seemed to reinforce the idea that there are problems with the way the ordinance is written in terms of enforcement. That ordinance was originally adopted in 1989, and as I'm sure you all know, there have been a more recent spat of concerns over the noise ordinance enforcement, especially relevant to the brewery and some of the events in the brewery disturbing the adjacent neighborhood. So it's basically on our plate again. There has been correspondence from the chief and various meetings over this particular recent series of events, and the chief is, I think, made the statement that his feeling is that the current noise ordinance is unenforceable, and basically made a recommendation that the RTM Rules and Ordinance Committee address the issue again with the idea of possibly making some changes to the ordinance. So My request back to the board and through the board to the Chief Mulhern is that we have a dialogue, which could be in a meeting with the chief at some point in the near future, to answer a couple of questions that I have specifically regarding how we might move forward. One is basically to get some feedback on which elements of the current ordinance the department feels render it unenforceable, in their opinion. Number two, whether the department itself has any recommendations on changes to the ordinance that would facilitate enforcement. There clearly has been a question of what entity in the town would take the lead in enforcement, and I think the department has made it clear that the enforcement of some of the municipal ordinances are relatively low on the priority list of their main public service, public safety objectives. However, state statutes do still stipulate that the police department can enforce all municipal ordinances. So the department, in a sense, will have a role, I think, going forward in it. It also is, I think, going to be difficult ever to completely extricate the department from whatever procedures we might come up with for better enforcement, because of the fact that I think citizen complaints they're going to happen when the incidents occur. They're going to probably mostly come to the police department. I was encouraged to see that some sort of a system seemed to be put into place to receive those calls and maybe parse them out and segregate them for later review. But it is possible that with that system in place and maybe remaining in place, that if the Rules and Ordinance Committee comes up with changes in the ordinance, that we'll have some version of an alternative enforcement mechanism, that there still could be coordination between the department and whatever that future entity might be. One of the issues, obviously, we have a lot of ordinances in town that have require enforcement, and I've looked over them, and they go back to ordinances that were created over a century ago. The wording of them is usually very unclear in terms of how enforcement should take place. There are times when the police department is specifically listed as a participant to enforcement, and other times when there is no definition whatsoever about enforcement. So from our point of view, I think we have a greater challenge on our hands in terms of general mechanism for enforcement. But it may, using this specific task of the noise ordinance, we may be able to come up with some more unified approach to an enforcement authority, municipal enforcement authority, that the town can use to cover multiple ordinances. Again, but I think requiring some degree of coordination and participation of the police department. So the request is just that we discuss this further, that perhaps Chief Mulhern meet with us.
So you'd like to add this, you'd like to add this to the agenda for next meeting, and in the meanwhile, you'll maybe have a meeting with the chief.
But we could come
and he can
report
maybe
on any
answer some
progress that we've made at the meeting, and hopefully we'll have gotten that discussion started in the meantime.
Okay.
Has this been brought to the RTM prior to this? I mean, it seemed to me that's the logical process, a subcommittee of the RTM.
The actual, this has not been referred to the Rules and Ordinance Committee directly. It's been referred to myself as the chair, and I can bring things myself to the Rules and Ordinance Committee to be addressed independent of a referral from the RTM. However, I think that after this discussion, we may go through a formal referral to the RTM that then gets sent to Rules and Ordinances.
Right.
And we continue on. As I say, the topic has been addressed numerous times by Rules and Ordinances over the years, relatively unsuccessfully.
there.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we'll pass this along to Amy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
If I could just.
Sure.
Peter said something which I want to highlight, which I totally agree with. He used the term future entity, and I think that there's a discussion that has to be had, and I've mentioned this publicly before. You know, we are facing a lot of challenges in law enforcement, and I brought this up in other meetings, and I've talked about this many times. What I would recommend, which we can talk about, and you know, the commission can consider also, is that future entity. Other departments have the noise ordinance reside with public health or zoning enforcement or another part of the town government or town departments other than the police department. There are issues with this ordinance. We can discuss them. A lot of them are not enforced by municipalities, and the research will show that. However, where I worry, and the reason why I like the idea of it being put to a different entity and then us assisting in ways that we would need to assist, is I have a concern. Not only do I have a concern with the ordinance, but I have a concern of us kind of being set up for failure. And what I say by that is, if we redo the ordinance, it resides with the police department. What happens is, with all our challenges and our call volumes and the things that we want to accomplish and the strategic, you know, or the core things that we should be doing, traffic safety, responding to calls for crimes and deterrent patrols, those things. What I worry with these is they grow into air conditioning units, they grow into power tools, they grow into neighbor disputes.
Lawnmowers.
And when you dig in on how these are supposed to be measured and how they're measured, how long they're measured, the different expert opinions that come out of or are part of the litigation, where we stand right now, I cannot recommend that we keep it within the police department. And the reason I say that is everyone in town is expecting a level of service. And if they call for a noise dispute or a noise issue, and we do not have the resources during that time period, and I don't have an officer to dedicate to take a half an hour reading, it puts us in a bad position. So with all the demands in this, if you recall years ago, there was a big trend to civilianize parts of law enforcement that were viable to be civilianized or pushed away to give us more of those core services and core allocation of things we can do. To me, this is one of them that could fit that. It's something that could be discussed, that could be looked at. The other part is the training component that has come up with this issue. The equipment, the needed training. We have to pick and choose what is important and what the community expects from us. And where we stand right now and the challenges we're facing, and we outlined it very clearly in the needs assessment of our manpower assessment that was done not long ago. I cannot say that we can fulfill this if it was changed and we're the sole authority. With that said, we still do have state statutes and we still do have infractionable offenses, i.e. creating a public disturbance, things like that that we would use in a party situation. But there are some municipalities that are pursuing noise ordinances for gas-powered weed whackers, leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and it just continues to grow. And I don't want to let the people down when they call because someone's using a lawnmower or something that's loud and we don't have the ability. So I think there's a mechanism we could find a middle ground, but that just stood out to me, that future entity. And I know we've done it with other ordinances. Peter's been great in discussions about that, about my concerns with certain, I mean, listen, quality of life is very important, I get that, but when you really break it down to what we're doing, I don't know if we need to be involved with measuring the sound coming off of an air conditioner unit. I just don't think that's a good use of a certified police officer And I'll close just with the training component again of the amount of training that we are mandated to do now. The officers are either on vacation time, working, or they're in training. Our training demands have gone up significantly since 2020. 2020 we've got, and there's more coming. There's more on the horizon. So we're in a constant balancing act of training time, deployment time, and how many officers are out on the field. So I look forward to working with Peter on this and pursuing new ideas, but just to give everyone a head start of where my recommendation is going to be going, that's how I
Thank you,
view
Chief.
this.
May I ask a question? Is the only noise ordinance issue with the brewery right now in this town?
No, there's other issues that will come up. So historically, what you see is in '89 when this came out, and I can speak from my personal experience when my previous department, when that municipality put the ordinance in, people became cognizant of it, and you did get air conditioners. You did get those type of calls, so it just starts to grow. Are there noise issues? Yeah, there's noise issues everywhere. Specifically, the brewery, what concerns me with that is we have town concerts on the green. We have the Branford Festival. We have other,
High school football games with the bands. I
well,
mean,
they would
that's-
definitely be over. Those would be
The
over.
stand.
The
If we're
stand.
winning and they're scoring, they'd
There's,
probably be over.
there's a lot to just take into account.
So that is a concern, but noise in general, yeah, there's quality of life issues and people want those addressed. However, where is it best suited? And that's something I think we can work towards.
I think the other thing that I'm just going to say from my own point of view, what I saw in terms of crimes that were happening at the time of the calls that flooded the police department regarding the brewery, those were not insignificant crimes and calls that were happening in Branford. Saving lives, if I'm not mistaken, was a key piece. So from my perspective, and I understand quality of life, I understand that. However, the work that the police were doing that night, in my opinion, supersedes a noise ordinance. That's my feeling about that.
I don't think we need to necessarily mix the two together necessarily. What Peter's discussed, a 1989 ordinance, there's been changes. There's been changes on the state side. There's been changes. It needs to be looked at. So if this is what prompts it, so be it. But either way, it's not a bad idea for the RTM to look at this and consider it and look at alternative enforcement strategies or a different entity that could help facilitate that.
Thank you, Chief.
Well said, Chief.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.